This is my SAVI
And this
story.
is my SAVI story.
This is my SAVI story.
Presented by Seven Figure Flipping.
It was pretty smooth. I won't say seamless, but it was definitely smooth with savvy resources, mentors, the Kaiser Permanente transitioning program just really provided for a smooth transition for me to really prepare myself to get out. My wife was pregnant, and Adrian and Savvy even had resources for her in regards to things like her credentialing, because she's a physical therapist, and different states and different laws and things like that. So it was actually a pretty good experience.
So my overall, I guess, perception of transition was first and foremost that there was no finish line. I realized very quickly that there's not an objective point that you get to and you say, all right, I am transitioned out now. The day came where I became a veteran, and I kind of thought that there was supposed to be fireworks and a crowd cheering in the background. You expect this feeling of completion, of achievement, and I've done it, ready to go on to the next day. And it wasn't that black and white. I was a veteran and I felt no different than I was the day before when I was a service member. If anything, I just had a lot more confusion now because that security was no longer there, and I couldn't go back to my unit and ask like, hey, what am I supposed to be doing tomorrow? And I was so used to knowing my appointments, knowing my expectations, knowing my next steps, knowing I had to press my uniform, knowing I needed to shine my boots. Yes, we used to do that at one point. For those of you that are currently serving and no longer have to do that, back in the day. But it really was, it was a sense of emptiness. It was a sense of I'm supposed to be doing something and I don't know what that something is. And so I really felt like it was a journey that I was on with no real endpoint in sight and no real final destination. And being so objective oriented, that was a really hard thing for me to kind of grasp my mind around. Now, I had the very fortunate luck of working with an individual that was my representative through the VA claims process and was leaving his position, which created an opportunity for me to A, not only get a job, but B, be able to be of service, which I was already naturally inclined to do anyways. So that actually started my career in the veteran services arena. And I am so thankful that I had the struggle before, because who knows, I could have gone into anything that I would have deemed a suitable career and maybe completely missed an opportunity to be able to give back to veterans. And so through my process now, I've been in this space for about 13 years, specializing in primarily compensation and pension through the Department of Veterans Affairs, but also dealing with other benefits, federal benefits as a whole, state benefits, and local benefits. And one of the things that I fundamentally realized is that the disconnect between veterans and their benefits starts at transition. Transition from the military is the only point in your military journey in which benefits will ever be a priority. The VA knows that you're getting out, the military knows that they're getting out, so they give you the transition assistance program. I know that some branches have a variation of what they call it, but essentially the program that you attend to learn about benefits, to learn about your educational opportunities, employment opportunities, and so forth. And it is great information. However, it is consolidated into a very, very short time frame, and it is not all-encompassing. As you'll hear as we share our SAVI transition stories, no transition is alike. Everybody has a different experience. They have different access to resources, support, family dynamics, so forth and so on. And so it is really important that we are looking at these individuals as people and realizing that transition impacts their entire lives. You're not going from McDonald's to Burger King. You are essentially transitioning your entire structure, your mindset, the way that you do business, how you report to work every day, your purpose. All of these things are very much a part of your transition process that really nobody really speaks about. And when you think about the fact that it takes the average veteran about 6 years to transition out of the military, I can tell you now, being out for as long as I have, there's still moments where I still don't feel like I've transitioned out properly, or that there's still more for me to evolve and really be a part of this civilian sector, if you will. The military changes you, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But knowing that it has changed you also means knowing that you have to have a blueprint for your new life, your new chapter, because it's going to look very different. So that's really what led me to start SAVI, was knowing that there was a disconnect between the transition process and that reintegration success, and really looking at how we not only engage with support services that are available to us, but our understanding of what those things are. SAVI was created out of necessity to address the fact that we need to remove the obstacles to a successful reintegration process by making sure that veterans understand their basic eligibilities and also understand the other amazing organizations, benefits, and resources that are available to you to help support your primary objective, whatever that objective is. And we've conceptualized it down into 4 categories. So that's education, retirement, employment, and entrepreneurship. Normally, there's one of those 4 primary objectives that an individual has. Of course, you can have a mix and match of a couple of them, but when you're looking for new economic opportunities, it normally tends to fall into one of those categories. So we use that as a primary guide, and then we look at all of the different aspects that impact your transition, whether you're concerned about life insurance, maybe you're concerned about what you're going to wear to work every day. Are you going to buy? Are you going to rent? Have you transferred your educational eligibility to your dependents? What are the states that you're considering? What is the difference in taxation? There's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of amazing programs that can help solve whatever objective that it is that you are seeking. And so our goal and commitment is to make sure that we are not only looking at individuals as individuals, but really approaching transition from a whole life approach, looking at all of the different aspects that impact that and what the available resources are to help support that process. So that was really my kind of transition journey, my SAVI story, which led me to launch this incredible organization, which has really shown the need for our program and the impact and how we're able to make a difference with just a little bit education. I mean, as a veteran, you have access to over $400,000 worth of value in resources and benefits that you can access, and you've earned it. You've done your time, you've served your community, you've served your country. Now it's time to get access to the benefits that were intended for you. So that's why SAVI exists, is to get veterans the benefits that they deserve and to make sure that transition doesn't have to be this awful, confusing, overwhelming experience that you feel that there's no support for you. We're here to do that. We're here to supplement that process and to make sure that you get everything that was intended for you and that you can meet your objectives successfully without having to worry about additional stressors and confusion and lack of clarity and being redirected, misdirected, all of that. We want to eliminate the noise and make sure that we get to the core of what matters to you.
Yeah, so transition experience is rough, guys. If you're transitioning, I don't really think you ever transition, right, fully from the military, maybe until you hit maybe that decade point. I don't know, because I feel like I'm still in that transition phase. One of the biggest challenges that I've had to, hurdle is, applying systems in my own life, right? And, creating routine, right? Reestablishing a routine that works for me. One of the things when you take off that pack and you're finally like, woo, I'm free. Let's go, right? You just want to go and do everything. You know what I mean? You want to do anything and everything. The first thing you want to do is wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning because you can, right? Just because you can. The next thing is you don't want to shave because also you can, right? But maybe if you're a female, you want to let your hair down and never put that thing back in a bun, right? But the more you let yourself go like that is the more you let yourself go. And you don't realize how quickly that cascades into other things, like forgetting to write stuff down, forgetting to track stuff, right? Letting yourself slip on deadlines and, things that are necessary for you to function, right? Like, I mean, even being responsible for certain big things in your life, like how about going to the dentist? I mean, that stuff you don't have to think about because someone either got you on some kind of dink list or, or you are, force fed those reminders, like your birthday, right? Your birthday is a common one in the military. Every time it's your birthday, you got to go for your annual checkup and you got to go schedule your next dentist appointment. But, if you haven't been thinking about that before, right, then it's easy for you to forget. And those things are kind of hard. So yeah, the transition process, right, it's an ongoing thing. One of the things that helped me throughout my transition process was, talking to a woman named Adrienne Phillips, who works with an organization called SAVI. You might have heard of them, but they absolutely are tremendous because, getting on that monthly coaching call that I was offered was huge. And it didn't cost me anything, but it gave me everything that I had to, understand the resources that I had kind of seen and didn't really understand before at my TGPS class. I could assess to see, okay, this actually makes sense for me, and this does not at this moment. So I can readjust that later on, right? And while I'm in this position to figure out what makes sense for me right now, here are all the tools and resources that I can use to kind of, benefit me and my journey, right? My journey was being an entrepreneur. That might not be everyone else's journey. And so what the military teaches you in your transition is to, go for the common denominator, which is employment, right? That wasn't my journey. And so I didn't take away as much as I could from that. Having SAVI's help, right, month after month, to kind of tailor my journey and my experience and the resources and the tools that I needed was tremendous. And I don't think I would be where I am today without her help. So I thank SAVI greatly for that.
My overall transition experience was very hard. For one, I had to kind of reestablish a new routine. I know we talked about that, but just mentally, always being on the go, always being needed for something. And then, my family needs me, but they're, just minor things here and there. And mentally, I guess being in that position and having that responsibility relieved from me, it was a bit of a mental thing I had to overcome. I know it's kind of easy to say, let's take a vacation, let's, take off, by that time my wife was still working, my boys were in school, and, I was not as needed as much as, summertime was. But after that experience, you kind of have to transform. You really have to commit to your new career. And I found myself, struggling more than I could say most, especially when your salary is kind of like a commission. You really have to be your CEO. You have to dress the part. You have to, do everything. And it's just kind of, extra responsibility, to get up, go to work and do those things. And, I could have taken an easier path. I could have gotten a job where they expected to be a certain time, certain place. But I felt like this gave me the most flexibility for family to kind of do that. Some of the VA claims didn't go through as fast as I thought they would. I know we were expecting 6 months to a year. So my nest egg kind of dwindled down a bit. At some point, I had missed 2 payments on my mortgage. I was missing a third. And I was reaching out to Adrienne. Adrienne was really gracious enough to point me into a resource with Operation Homefront. And, it was very stressful. I mean, we were missing payments, one, because we couldn't pay it, but, we still had to feed our family. We still had to put on the lights and the water. And when she put me in touch with Operation Homefront, they paid for 2 months of our mortgage. And they were willing to pay a third, but they kind of wanted to wait to make sure that we could, sustain, that financially. And we were able to, and I'm glad that they did that. That was probably one of the biggest parts of transitioning is, like I said, you don't have that security with your financial income. And, that was a big deal for us. As right after they paid it, the income started coming in with the disability. My military education benefits kicked in, and we were able to sustain it. So it was challenging. As much preparation as I had, and I think 5 years is enough, or just being able to do a lot of research. You still run into challenges, and you just got to do your best.
One thing that you can look forward to when transitioning out, or I guess going through your journey, as it were, is your ability to recreate your life. This is a chance to take anything that you wish you would have done better while you were in the service, or anything you wish you would have done differently while you were in the service. You can do it now, right? You can make that your thing. But I implore you to focus on that one thing, and don't let anything else distract you, at least for a little bit, right? See where it goes, because you never know, right? And you can finally answer that question in your head. It doesn't matter. You're not too old, right, to do anything. You're not too late. You haven't missed any opportunities. The opportunity is created when you create, your action plan around what it is that you want to do.